on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Last video we kind of built a fuse / relay panel for the Mustang there. That way I can kind of move around I can clean up some of my wiring I have in there and have a spot to hook up some new accessories for some of the stuff that I have purchased for this car. Video before that we worked on the cross cart here, and if you haven't seen that, that's where we built the shifter for that. Super excited about that one. Getting closer and closer to getting that thing on the ground, taking it for a little test rip around the yard. But as you can see, I got it up in the air. I got the Mustang underneath the lift as well, and that is because I have decided to pull my truck in, and I don't know if you can tell how dirty that thing is. And that's because it has been sitting under a carport now for, I would say, close to 8 months, 9 months. And it's been there because I smoked the clutch in this thing. Now, it may have been something I did. I'm not 100% sure. But I do know when I picked this truck up, I was told I had a brand new clutch installed. Well, I've climbed underneath this thing, and from the looks of it, it doesn't look like a clutch was installed in this truck. It looks like the only thing that was replaced was a clutch master. So, like I said, it may or may not have been something I've done. And really, I haven't needed it. I've been using my wife's van to tow the trailer. So, and that thing actually tows fairly well. But winter is coming. And it's going to start getting really, really cold around here. And I figured I have procrastinated enough with this truck that pull it in. Let's get the new clutch installed. So now I've got chocks underneath the back wheels already. Batteries are undone. So first things first is I'm going to go ahead and we'll get in the truck. Get the 4 screws out of our shifting boot here, get that up and out of the way, so I can figure out what it's going to take to get the shifter out. Now, I have crawled underneath this truck once already, just to kind of give it a good look over, and I think my best plan of attack for this, because it is such a large unit in this thing, and I'm doing this by myself, that I'm going to go ahead and tackle this thing in pieces. So anyways, getting ahead of myself, I'm going to go ahead and get the 4 Phillips screws out of our shifter boot there and figure out what we need to get the shifter off. So I'll be back here in a second. All right, we got the 4 Phillips head screws removed. We got 1 in each corner. Got this thing moved up out of the way. Now, I've already cleaned out one of these Allen heads here, Allen head bolts, to figure out the correct size, which turns out to be a 6mm Allen. Definitely had to use a pick to get in there and clean it out. See if I can get in closer for you. You can see how dirty everything is. But there appears to be 6 Allen head bolts that need to be removed. So, and I had to clean them out. I cleaned it out really good because there's a lot of stuff in there, which, I mean, indicates that another indication that it has not been removed, or the clutch has not been changed, unless they got some neat way of pulling the transmission without pulling the shifter. So, but anyways, I had a lot of grime there. Get a little pick, clean it out. It is a 6mm Allen head on the bolt, and there looks like there's 6 all the way around. So we'll go ahead and get those 6 Allen head bolts out, get the shifter off, and then I believe at that point we can move underneath the truck, see what else we got to remove. So again, I'll be back in a second. All right, shifter is out. Got the hardware sitting on the floorboard. Now what we're going to do, we're going to climb up underneath the truck and start. Figured the next thing I would do is go ahead and pull the bolts right out of our carrier here. These are, I believe, 14mm. Let's double check our little socket here real quick. See if it'll focus. Yep, 14 millimeter for our carrier bolts. And then I'll go ahead and get all the bolts out of our drive shaft flanges. Now these are 12 millimeter. Let's see here. Yep, 12 millimeter, 12 points. Let's see if I get. Whoop. Go ahead and get all those out of the drive shafts as well. We'll get the front, the rear, and then we'll move on over here to the front. As you can see, I started cracking them loose. Making all kinds of noise. So that's my next step. Go ahead and get the front and rear drive shafts out, get them off to the side. And most likely what I'll do from there is, because I'm doing this on the ground, I'm doing it on my back. It's like I know I do have a lift, but this truck does kind of push the limit of that lift. So in order to help me control it better, after I get the drive shafts out, I'll go ahead and disconnect and remove the transfer case as well. That way I don't have a weight hanging off the side. At least in my mind, it'll give me better control of the transmission. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Get the drive shafts out, get them off the side, and then we'll pull that transfer case. And then after the transfer case, we'll move on to our next step. So let's get to it. All right, transfer case is pulled, and really that only probably, it took me 10 minutes to get it off. You look at the size of that thing, it's kind of intimidating, but it's actually lighter than it looks. So that's a real plus. But yeah, like I said, it only took 10 minutes to get it off. It had, let's see here real quick. It's got 6 13 millimeter bolts, and it is held up in place. It slides into the transmission and sits on a guide pin here, so you can pull all of these bolts out and it won't turn on you. And it's got a plug here and a plug down. Well, it's kind of hard to see here, but there it is. Right, and there's a plug as well. So pull those 2 plugs, pull the 6 bolts out, and just basically pull it out, set it on the ground, slid it off from underneath the truck. That's another cool thing about having a lifted truck. It makes getting under it much easier. So, but now that we've got that out of our way, show you guys what we're going to do next. We're coming back up underneath. So I've got a little bit of a tight fit here. So we got a couple of transmission mount bolts. Those are 21 millimeter. We'll get those out of the way. We've got 6 bell housing bolts, which are 19 millimeter. I've got 4 dust cover bolts up front. Those are 10 millimeter. Starter bolts. The starter's got to come out as well. Those are 17 millimeter. And the really cool feature I didn't realize this truck had is it's got transmission cooler lines, and those are 16 millimeter. Once we got all of that stuff out of the way, then we'll go ahead and so you see I've already pulled a couple out of there, but we got to get all the transmission cross member bolts out. That way I can get the transmission up underneath there, or the transmission, the floor jack under the transmission. We'll get it jacked up, pull that cross member out, give me a little wiggle room so I can wiggle that transmission back and let it down. But yeah, my floor jack has got a really narrow base, so that's another reason why I pulled that thing off, because it most likely would want to flip on me. So. But anyways, I gotta get the transmission mount bolts out, the bell housing bolts, get the starter off, the inspection cover off, and we'll get those cooler lines undone. Get the floor jack underneath this thing, get the transmission out, and then move on to our next step. So again, I'll be right back. All right, transmission is out. I've actually got the floor jack underneath it right now. I've actually got it sitting on one of those transmission jack adapters that you can buy on eBay. I'll put the link to that in the description in case you guys want to get yourselves one. yeah, let me show you here what it looks like. Come on under here. So you can see there, that's the little adapter. It goes right into where the pad would be on the front of the floor jack. I've got the transmission sitting on there, a couple of small pieces of 2x4s, ratchet straps holding it down nice and tight. And let me tell you, that transmission is a lot heavier than it looks. Also gone ahead and pulled the flywheel off the back of the engine. And it does not look like it has been changed like I was told it was when I bought this truck. So, I mean, I am kind of happy because it's not really something I did. I just drove the truck. But I think you guys will appreciate this. It's got some miles on it. So, let me show you what we got. So, here's our flywheel. You can see, not too bad. It does have some heat spots in it. Clutch, like it chattered a little bit. It's got a bunch of little stress cracks in it, but not too bad. Pretty typical for what you see. You can see right in here, here's a good spot. I'll show you what caused that here pretty soon. Here is our throwout bearing, or throwout bearing, or engagement bearing, whatever it's called. You can see the face is pretty wore off it. A lot of metal shavings I dug out of there, but you can see the face of this bearing is flat and about wore off. Now we come on over here to our pressure plate. You can see all the clutch material that's up inside there. And then you take a look at our fingers here for our spring. You can see how wore down those are. So, I mean, even if the clutch itself didn't go out, there wasn't much, we didn't have that much time left on it. She'd have gone either way. So, and you see it again. We'll grab this little guy. So, that's where it rode. It almost, you'd almost think that somebody rode or drove this truck with their foot on the clutch pedal. That's what causes stuff like that. It causes a bad pilot bearing, and it causes this guy to ride the clutch plate. So, if you ride or drive your truck with your foot resting on the clutch pedal, this is what you're doing. All right, anyways. Now we come all the way over, or you know what? Let's go ahead and flip this pressure plate so you guys can see what it looks like on the other side. So you can see more heat spots. Now they'd definitely be more pronounced, but you can see some of these are wore through. I don't know. It's too bad you can't feel that, but you can feel the waviness and these grooves that go all the way around our pressure plate. And that's because we wore the clutch down so far that it was actually engaging on the rivets. So it's amazing this truck actually moved, to tell you the truth. Flip it around. Get to the other side, you can see this was almost to the point of touching these rivets as well. Still a little bit of depth there, but oops. That's the side that went. So there's no clutch material left on the clutch. We got big grooves wore on the plate. Our springs, or our fingers, are about wore all the way off. And we have a bunch of heat spots and stress cracks in our flywheel. But pilot bearing, however, looks pretty good. Anyways, when you go to take your flywheel off, these are 18mm bolts for the flywheel there, and when you go to put it back on, they're torqued to 89 foot-pounds or 90 with Loctite. It does suggest you put Loctite. Pressure plate, these bolts here are 3/8. The one size that was, well, is the one standard size I found. I couldn't cross it over. I think 18 millimeters close to 3/4 or 19 millimeters close to 3/4. Can't remember, but when you go to take your flywheel off, 18 millimeter bolts. Pressure plate is 3/8 bolts, and torque spec on your flywheel is 89. 89 foot-pounds, and then the torque spec on the pressure plate bolts I found are between 25 and 29. So that's it. I got a little bit of cleaning to do in the bell housing. As you can see here, I got that big old pile out of there. A lot of it's clutch material, but there is some grease and grime. Rear main seal looks pretty good. It's got a little bit of oil, but it looked like it was coming from the pan. The crank seal itself is pretty dry, so that's a plus. Yeah, I got to get back underneath here. I got a little bit more cleanup to do. Then I can start installing all of our parts. Another thing I wanted to seem to have misplaced it, but yeah. Get up there, finish cleaning up all the parts to install everything back inside the transmission so we get the transmission back up. And when you lube everything, they want you to lube the input shaft where the engagement bearing or throwout bearing slides on the transmission. Use a high temp bearing grease for that. Also put a high temp bearing grease in your pilot bearing as well. Don't use the drum brake bearing. It specifically says use high temp bearing grease, so remember that. But anyways, I'll get up underneath this truck, finish cleaning everything up, and we'll start getting this transmission back in. All right, I got everything clean underneath this truck. Got all the pivot points greased, ready to go back together. But before I put everything up underneath the truck, I just kind of want to show you guys all our new stuff. So here's our new clutch plate. Thing's pretty nice. We've got all new hardware for it as well. Here's our new pressure plate with our new throwout bearing. As you can see there, it's got a nice little curvature on the face. So that's going to work out really well. Our brand new flywheel. I've already wiped everything down with brake clean. We got our new pilot bearing installed as well. So here's all the new goodies. Now I will put a link to this stuff in the description as well. If you've guessed it, yes, I bought it off of eBay. It is a Clutch Max clutch kit. It's a stage 4. And I got this because this truck does have a programmer in it. And really I wanted it. It's probably way overkill for what I actually need. This clutch is rated for just over 950 foot-pounds of torque and about just under 580 horsepower, which is a lot more than this truck puts out. It's not a race truck. It's pretty much bone stock except for the programmer. And really all I need it for is cruising and towing my trailer. So, but now that everything's clean, showed you guys the new parts. Now I'm going to put it in, get it installed in the truck so we can get this thing backed out. Hopefully the next time you see me, we'll have this thing running and, well, taking it on a test drive. So, I'll be back in a second. All right, it is it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Transmission, everything is back in the truck. I started this thing about 5 minutes ago, letting it warm up a little bit. As you can see, it is already very, very cold outside. But all I'm going to do right now is put it in reverse, back it out. If it backs out, either way, I'm pushing this thing outside so I can close up shop and go take a shower. All right, well, it's the next morning, or I should say next afternoon. As you saw from the video, we got the truck down on the ground last night, got it back out of the shop, and I actually didn't get out of here or get this door closed till just before 1 o'clock in the morning. But I did not want to stop. I wanted to make sure everything was good, got it on the ground, get it out for, at the very least, just to be able to close the shop up. But anyways, I still got to take that thing on a test drive, but before I do have to put the exhaust back in it, and that pretty much only consists of shortening this up a little bit and getting rid of the trash can on the end there. Thing's kind of ugly looking. Not a big fan of those things. Nothing too exciting. When I took it out yesterday, some of the clamps were broken and some of the hangers were missing, so I do have replacement parts for that over there. Anyways, I'm not going to bore you guys with that. I do however, want to say or apologize about the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of actual hands-on video of me working on the truck. It is extremely difficult to get the camera underneath that thing and work at the same time. I did try. I tried at least twice, kept kicking the phone over. So I figured the best thing I could do was just get all the tools ready, go over what I was using, show you guys what I was doing or what I was using, and tell you what I was going to do next. So, like I said, I hope that at least helps somebody out. Not a whole lot of special tools were needed to do this job. The only thing I got that I was actually really happy that I did get was this little adapter here. Little transmission jack, kind of like the one I have on the one that I use under the lift. But this one goes on the floor jack itself. Now this particular one, I will add the description or a link in the description for this piece. The only thing I had to do was, this one was made to slip into a floor jack where the pad just kind of comes out, and it was made to drop in. As you can see, mine is not. This is a Harbor Freight jack. So I took a die grinder, punched the center out, opened the hole up a little bit so I can use the original bolt here or Allen nut to bolt it to the floor jack itself, which definitely helped out a lot. I will tell you that piece or that adapter right there, it was a definite lifesaver to allow me to put 2x4s underneath the transmission, use ratchet straps to hold it tightly to that. Definitely was a lifesaver because, like I said, that transmission is much heavier than it looks. So yeah, that's basically the only specialty thing I really needed. Like I said, I'll add a link to that in the description. I will also make sure to add the link to our clutch kit in the description as well. If I hadn't mentioned, I believe it was just under $500 for the whole kit. Came with a flywheel, throwout bearing, pilot bearing, clutch plate, pressure plate, and the hardware for the flywheel itself to bolt to the engine. It did not, however, come with brand new hardware to bolt the clutch to the flywheel. That you'll have to outsource yourself. Lucky for me, I did have some automotive grade hardware that matched that flywheel. I keep a bucket of all my basically spare hardware. Everything that comes brand new and a bunch of other kits that I have, I throw in a bucket. So if I had a link to that, I'd give it to you as well, but I didn't. But yeah, anyways, that's it really. Like I said, I still got to take that truck for a test drive, but before I do that, I got to put that exhaust on. So I am going to end this video right here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this helps some of you out, or one of you at least. And to show you that you can take a truck of that size, you can do the transmission by yourself on the ground. It just takes about a day's worth of work, and really the only specialty item you need is that, and of course a torque wrench. So, a couple of ratchet straps. However, I do recommend you, if you got a buddy that's willing to help, call them over. So, but anyways, like I said, I'm gonna end this video right here. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for watching. If you're new and just joining, please hit that subscribe button for me. Turn on notifications. I do have a lot of other videos coming up. for this stuff, I'm just trying to get some of the things that I've neglected. Got to get some of those things up. But again, like I said, thank you guys for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you on the next one.